The hidden leaf village lay bathed in the golden hues of dusk, its bustling streets slowly emptying as merchants packed their stalls and shinobi returned from their missions. Yet beneath the peaceful facade, an unease prickled the air, whispers of missing nin and strange puppets sighted near the borders. Naruto Uzumaki, now a seasoned jonin and Hokage in waiting, stood atop the Hokage monument, his cerulean eyes scanning the horizon. The wind tugged at his orange jacket, the fabric fluttering like a banner of defiance. He clenched his fists, sensing a familiar yet distant chakra, one that shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, deep within the abandoned ruins of the Uzushiogakur, a figure stirred beneath layers of dust and shattered seals. Crimson hair, long and tangled, spilled over shoulders as the woman's eyes snapped open, their violet irises burning with centuries of forgotten rage. "The Puppet King's reign ends today," she hissed, her voice a blend of venom and sorrow. The ground trembled as she rose, her chakra erupting in a maelstrom of spiraling energy that sent debris flying. She was Karen Uzumaki, or so she had once been called, before time and betrayal had twisted her into something else entirely. Back in Konoha, Naruto's instinct screamed. He leapt from the monument, landing in a crouch as a shadowy figure materialized before him, a puppet, its wooden limbs clicking with eerie precision. Its hollow eyes locked onto him, and without warning, it lunged, blades extending from its wrists. Naruto twisted midair, barely avoiding the slash, and retaliated with a spinning kick that shattered the puppet's arm. But the debris reassembled instantly, the seams stitching back together with glowing green chakra threads. Regeneration? TCH, annoying, he muttered, forming a Rasengan in his palm. The blue sphere hummed as he slammed it into the puppet's chest, reducing it to splinters, but the fragments twitched, pulled by an invisible force toward the forest. Naruto gave chase, his sandals kicking up dirt as he weaved through the trees. The puppets multiplied, dozens of them, their movements synchronized like a grotesque dance. He gritted his teeth, channeling Kurama's chakra. Golden flames erupted around him, his pupils slitting as his whisker marks darkened. "Wind style, Rasen Shuriken," he roared, hurling the spiraling disc. It cleaved through the puppets, reducing them to sawdust, but the victory was short-lived. A laugh, cold and melodic, echoed through the trees. Karen descended from the canopy, her crimson hair swirling like a living flame. Her gaze bore into Naruto, equal parts recognition and contempt. "So, the last Uzumaki stands before me," she mused, her fingers twitching. The remnants of the puppets reassembled at her feet, their broken forms knitting together under her command. "You've grown strong, but strength alone won't save you from the revolution." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "Who the hell are you?" She smiled, "A brittle thing. A relic. A ghost. The one who will tear down this false peace." With a flick of her wrist, the puppets surged forward, their movements faster, deadlier. Naruto countered with a barrage of shadow clones, each one engaging the puppets in a flurry of taijutsu and ninjutsu. Explosions lit up the forest as kunai met wood, and chakra scorched the earth. Karen watched, unimpressed. "You fight like him, like Hashirama. All brawn, no foresight." She raised her hands, and the ground beneath Naruto erupted in a web of glowing seals. Chains, adamantine and unbreakable, shot from the earth, wrapping around his limbs. He strained against them, his muscles bulging, but the chains held fast. "Uzumaki sealing techniques?" he gasped. "Correct," Karen whispered, stepping closer. "The very arts your village forgot." Her hand pressed against his chest, and a searing pain lanced through him as his chakra drained, siphoned into her. Kurama's growl echoed in his mind, but even the Nine Tails' power flickered under her grip. Just as darkness threatened to claim him, a kunai embedded itself in the tree beside Karen's head. She recoiled, the chains loosening slightly as she turned to face the newcomer. Sasuke Uchiha stood at the edge of the clearing, his Sharingan spinning. "Let him go," he said, voice icy. Karen's lips curled. The Uchiha. How poetic. She released Naruto, who collapsed to his knees, gasping. "This isn't over," she vowed, her form dissolving into a swirl of crimson chakra. "The revolution has only begun." As the forest fell silent, Naruto staggered to his feet, his body aching but his resolve unbroken. "Sasuke. We've got a problem." Sasuke's gaze remained fixed on the spot where Karen had vanished. "Worse than you know. She's not just an Uzumaki, she's the one who created the Puppet Legion during the Second War. And she's back for revenge." The first clash had ended, but the storm was just beginning. The battlefield trembled as Naruto Uzumaki skidded backward, his sandals carving furrows into the cracked earth. Across from him, the Puppet Revolution's leader, Kurotsuchi, smirked, her fingers twitching like a spider's legs as a dozen marionette soldiers lurched forward, their wooden limbs whirring with deadly precision. "You're outnumbered, Uzumaki," she taunted, her voice dripping with malice. Naruto wiped a trickle of blood from his lip, his cerulean eyes narrowing. "Numbers don't mean squat when you've got the will to protect what matters," he roared, slamming his palms together. A surge of chakra erupted around him, the air itself vibrating as golden flames cloaked his body, Kurama's power awakening in full. The puppets lunged, their blades gleaming under the crimson sunset. Naruto blurred into motion, a golden streak weaving between their attacks. He ducked under a scythe's arc, pivoted on his heel, and drove a Rasengan straight into the chest of the nearest puppet, reducing it to splinters. But Kurotsuchi wasn't idle. Her fingers danced, and the remaining puppets reconfigured, their joints locking together to form a monstrous, multi-armed construct. It swung a colossal fist downward, cratering the ground where Naruto had stood moments before. He backflipped, hands already forming another technique. Wind style, Rasen Shuriken. The spiraling disc of chakra screamed through the air, slicing through the puppet beast's torso, but the severed halves merely shuddered before reassembling, threads of dark chakra stitching them back together. Naruto's breath came hard. Regeneration? He gritted his teeth. If brute force wasn't enough, he'd have to outthink her. Across the field, Sakura Haruno was locked in her own battle, her fists cratering the earth as she dodged a barrage of poison needles. "Naruto, their cores," she shouted, her Byakugan seal pulsing with stored chakra. "They're being controlled by chakra threads, cut those." Naruto's eyes snapped to the puppet's joints, spotting the nearly invisible strands connecting them to Kurotsuchi's fingertips. A grin split his face. "Got it." With a burst of speed, he vanished, reappearing above the puppet monstrosity. His hands moved in a blur, weaving hand signs faster than the eye could follow. Shadow clone jutsu. Dozens of golden cloaked duplicates materialized, each lunging at the puppet from a different angle. Kurotsuchi snarled, her fingers flicking to redirect her creation's defenses, but Naruto's clones were too many, too fast. One clone fainted left, drawing a massive arm swing, while the real Naruto dove beneath it, his Rasengan humming with condensed wind chakra. "Now!" He slammed the technique into the puppet's central joint, severing the threads in a single, devastating strike. The construct collapsed, lifeless. Kurotsuchi staggered, her control disrupted. "Damn you," she spat, but Naruto was already charging, his fist pulled back for a knockout blow. Yet before he could connect, the ground beneath him erupted. A massive, serpentine puppet burst from the earth, its maw gaping wide. Naruto barely twisted midair, avoiding the razor fangs, but the tail whipped around, slamming into his ribs and sending him crashing into a boulder. Pain flared, but he forced himself up, his nine tails chakra already mending the damage. Across the rubble-strewn field, a new figure emerged, a hooded man with a face wrapped in bandages, his fingers twitching with an eerie, practiced grace. "You've done well to make it this far," the man intoned, his voice like rusted metal. "But the revolution does not fall so easily." Naruto's muscles tensed. This was the real mastermind. The man raised a hand, and the earth itself seemed to writhe as a legion of puppets clawed their way free, their hollow eyes locking onto Naruto. The sheer number was overwhelming, but Naruto felt Kurama's growl reverberate in his mind. "You've got this, kid. Let's show them what happens when they mess with us." Naruto's chakra flared brighter, his aura expanding into a swirling mantle of gold and crimson. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was fighting for every person these puppets had enslaved, for every life the revolution had stolen. With a thunderous battle cry, he launched himself forward, his movements a blur of devastating speed and precision. The puppets swarmed, but Naruto weaved through them like a storm, each strike shattering another hollow shell. The hooded man's fingers moved faster, his puppets adapting, but Naruto was adapting too, learning, evolving. He could feel it, the edge of something greater, a power just beyond his grasp. And as the battle reached its fever pitch, as the clash of chakra and steel lit the sky, Naruto's resolve crystallized into a single, unshakable truth. He wouldn't lose. Not here. Not ever. The final showdown had begun. The battlefield was a storm of dust and chakra, the earth trembling beneath the clash of Naruto Uzumaki and the rogue puppeteer, Kurotsuchi, whose army of hollow-eyed marionettes surged forward like a tide of death. Naruto's breath came in ragged gasps, his orange jacket torn, his knuckles split from relentless combat. The puppet revolution's final gambit loomed, a colossal, ancient construct, its joints creaking with the weight of forgotten Uzumaki seals now weaponized against him. Kurotsuchi's laughter was a razor in the wind. Your clan's own power will be your end, Uzumaki. The puppet's maw split open, a vortex of crimson chains erupting, the same chains that once bound tailed beasts, now snapping toward Naruto like serpents. He vaulted backward, weaving hand signs, but exhaustion slowed him. A chain grazed his ribs, drawing blood. Not fast enough. Then, a blur of pink. Sakura's fist cratered the earth, shockwaves scattering the chains. You're not alone, idiot. She barked, her healing glow already sealing his wound. Behind her, Shikamaru's shadows lashed out, pinning 3 puppets mid-lunge. We clear the path. You end this. Naruto's throat tightened. They were at their limits too, Sakura's chakra flickering, Shikamaru's hands trembling from overuse. But they stood. With a roar, Naruto surged forward, Kurama's chakra blazing around him. He dodged, weaved, but the puppet's movements were uncanny. It's reading me. The realization struck like lightning. Kurotsuchi had woven his own fighting style into its design. Every feint, every instinct countered. Desperation clawed at him, until a memory flashed, his mother, Kushina, her voice gentle but unyielding. The Uzumaki don't break. We endure. He stopped running. The puppet's fist rocketed toward his skull, but Naruto caught it, his fingers digging into wood. You want my clan's power? He gritted out. Kurama's chakra spiraled up his arm, melding with something deeper, something older. The air hummed as crimson markings unfurled across his skin, his pupils sharpening into slits. The forgotten Uzumaki awakening, seals of binding becoming seals of creation. With a wrench, he tore the puppet's arm free, then spun, driving his palm into its chest. A pulse of golden red energy erupted, the puppet's core shattering as the stolen Uzumaki seals rejected their wielder. Kurotsuchi screamed as his army collapsed, strings snapping. Silence. Naruto swayed, the markings fading. Kurotsuchi knelt, broken. Why? He croaked. Naruto exhaled, offering a hand. Because hating's easy. But someone's gotta stop the cycle. The puppeteer's eyes widened, then he laughed, bitter and raw, before slumping into unconsciousness. The aftermath was quiet. The revolution's leaders surrendered, their weapon undone. In the weeks that followed, the shinobi world whispered of Naruto's power, but louder still was the talk of his mercy. Alliances shifted. The land of rivers, once a puppet state, regained autonomy, its people free to choose. And Naruto? He stood on Hokage Rock at dawn, Sakura and Shikamaru beside him. We did it, Sakura murmured. He grinned, but his gaze was distant. Nah. We just started. The wind carried the promise of a new era, one where the past scars weren't chains, but lessons. Somewhere, deep in the ruins of Uzushio, a long dormant seal flickered to life.